I'm always on time.
Guys, we are calling a town hall meeting with our subscriber constituents. The first question we have from the crowd is, Scott, we'll start with you. Does stacks matter? Should we target and create stacks? What do you think?
Well, there's no context to this question, but do stacks matter? Yes. I talked about this on a DD show, one of the live streams. There's a fantasy footballers article, a fantasy footballers DFS article, which you would think, why am I going to the fantasy footballers for DFS advice? And what does that have to do with a dynasty show talking about stacks? But it was actually a really good article talking about best bang for your buck on like a DFS slate. So really that's what we're chasing in dynasty. It's a weekly game still, regardless of how long we play throughout the season, draft picks, all that stuff. It's still a weekly game when it comes down to it, whether that's just one head-to-head matchup or you're playing against a median, whatever. It's a weekly head-to-head game. This article talks about, though, where is the best bang for your buck when it comes from stacking. And I've always thought about it like, okay, if you're in a 10-team, start 10. We get a lot of 10-team, start 9, 10-team, start 10 questions. Even in shallow leagues like that. Jamar Chase is in your lineup. So stacking him with Joe Burrow, sure. Does it give you that nuclear, oh my gosh, they could score 100 points in a game? Yes. But aside from that, which might happen once per year, maybe, it doesn't really give you that big of an advantage because you're already putting both of them in your lineup. The idea that I look at stacking is, can I take a position where I probably, A, don't want to pay the capital to get a player that the market wants to pay, or B, can I elevate a weakness on my team? So think about when you can't get an elite tight end. One of the things we talked about on the roster reviews all the time. If you can't get an elite tight end, go stack with the quarterbacks you have. I don't care who the quarterback is, especially if it's a good quarterback. You probably want to go have Gerald Everett instead of Greg Dulcich. Even if Greg Dulcich is 5% better, I'd rather have Gerald Everett. If that's the best I can get and I can't go buy Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews, like I'll stack. That's a spot I will stack. My last flex spot, my third receiver. I don't care about stacking Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. But man, if I'm forced to roster a receiver that's on like the 20% range of like almost to the back end of the threshold, I'd rather have Gabe Davis with Josh Allen than Michael Gallup or somebody else that's in the same range.
Let me ask you this. So let's say you have Justin Herbert. You're on the clock. Can't trade the pick. It's a full PPR. Are you going Jordan Addison or Quentin Johnston?
I've had that decision a couple times. I've actually had a decision where I picked Quentin Johnston over Jordan Addison in a league where I had Justin Herbert. And in another league, I tried to do the same thing in a league where I had Kirk Cousins. And the person still took Quentin Johnston over Jordan Addison. Nice. So I ended up getting sniped regardless. But like, it was the kind of thing where those guys are in the same tier. I did want to get, and this was a great year. You could have stacked Zay Flowers with Lamar. You could have stacked Quentin Johnston with Herbert. You could have stacked Jordan Addison with Kirk Cousins and Geno Smith with JSN. So like, this was a great spot to prioritize those guys. Doesn't mean you take their wide receiver 4 over the wide receiver 1. No, but I think it's in the range where that's where a meaningful stack might hit. Even if the player doesn't become awesome, that's the type of range where I want to stack. As an elephant roars in the background.
Look, it's summertime. It's summertime in Philly. You're going to have to get used to the sounds of the dirt bikes and the gunshots and the helicopters. All right.
Shane, what are your thoughts on stacks?
I mean, Scott already talked for 9.5 minutes about it. What am I going to add to that?
He did. You're right.
Say? All right. I care. Like, do I want to stack Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase? Yes.
Let me ask you about this. So what about 2 stacks in a start 9? So let's say you have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and then you also have Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and who knows, maybe one other piece from one of those teams. Talk to me about overstacking.
I mean, the only time I'm sorry, Scott wanted to talk again.
Sorry,
Shane, please.
I mean,
overstacking.
The only time I'd be concerned about overstacking is if it's on an offense that's not good. Like Like, I'd be a little concerned right now if I had Atlanta Falcons all over the place, just because they don't have an actual quarterback that plays for them. So that's a little disconcerting for what's that gentleman's name? Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Not so much Bijan because he's a running back. He can make it. But if it's a good offense, I don't care. I mean, I did this all last year, and my best teams had it. It was Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and Dallas Goedert or Devonta Smith on every one of them. And I can't remember a week off the top of my head where I went, oh, that didn't work out. Well, Gardner Minshew played. That was not great. That week was not good. But outside of that, I was fine, because the funny thing is, if you stack good players on good offenses, it tends to work better than when you do it with bad players.
Yeah, what do you know? So here was another question from one of our subscriber constituents. I think that makes sense, right? The subscriber constituent. Part of the Trades in 5 community, right? Right. Yes. That makes sense.
We are the mayors of Dynasty Trades Town.
We're going with it. So, been following Scott's ideal startup strategy. Would love to know what his first moves are after the draft ends. I get the 2 elite QBs, but leaves me short of studs that I can leverage for future capital. Scott, you were specifically addressed. What say you?
Well, so, I mean, I get the question, because obviously when you trade up for 2 elite QBs, you're going to probably trade out of the range where you're going to have the ideal running back and tight end and wide receiver studs that everyone's seeking out in round 2, 3, 4, 5 of the startup. But if anyone listened to my ideal startup strategy podcast, what was the second part of that? You're not done when you get 2 elite QBs. You need to now go then and trade back, pick up future capital, trade back with the couple picks you have remaining that can be traded back. You probably can't trade back in round 8 and get a future first and another pick. Probably not happening. Round 4, round 5, whatever pick you didn't trade away, that very first pick you have left, trading down. Can I trade my 2, 3, and 5 to move up for a 1, 8, and 10? Right? That gets me my second elite quarterback. But now I have a 4th round pick. Can I trade my 4th down to get a 7th and a 1st? Can I trade my 6th to get a 9th and a 1st? If I can do that, if I can leave with 2 future firsts, guess what? I'm fine picking in round 6, 7, 8, 9, 9, 9, 10, 10, 11, whatever it is. Right. I'm okay understanding that I'm probably not going to hit at the same rate on receivers, maybe not on running backs, because honestly, some startups, they let good running backs go to that range because they're too old, and I don't care about young running backs. So receivers, though, like, I'm not going to get the cream of the crop, but there's a very good chance I end up with a couple receivers that are usable. But guess what I also have? I already have a couple future picks banked to ensure myself against the fact that I didn't get to pick Chris Olave. I had to settle for Cortland Sutton. I'm not even saying Chris Olave and Cortland Sutton are even in the same tier, but the point is I added a future first on top of that trade down, and it probably wasn't even those 2 names. That's not even a great example. But the point is, you just get
you've already got your QBs covered, so you don't have to allocate all those 24 first to QB unless you want to.
And here's the bottom line going forward. I don't have to worry about quarterbacks. If I don't win in year 1, oh well. Sometimes you find yourself, you're like, wow, I'm actually contending in year 1. I didn't think so, but I did because I hit on a couple players that were undervalued. But here's the fun part. How great does it feel when you have your quarterbacks locked down and you have 4 firsts over the next 2 years? All you need is skill players. How hard are those to get? In an active league, people are trading running backs. People are trading receivers. You can draft those positions. It's where you get yourself in trouble when you go, Shane, I have a great team, but guess what? I don't have a top 15 quarterback. Now I have to find one in the draft. Shane, do you want to give up 3 firsts to trade up to get Anthony Richardson and bank everything on Anthony Richardson or Bryce Young? Like, I don't want to go that route. So I get it. Some people like to go that route. They like having Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall on their team. But if you're going to do the 2 elite quarterbacks, you got to insure yourself with extra capital by trading back again and not just going, well, all I have is quarterbacks and I have no future picks. You don't gain any insurance that way.
Let me ask this quick question. Shane, we'll start with you. So you're on the clock and Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young are on the board. Who did you find yourself hitting draft
Bryce
on
Young.
More? Bryce Young, even in a 4-point per passing touchdown?
In any point per passing touchdown, because I still have the fear that Anthony Richardson's going to be out of the league in 3 years. Look, his upside is still immense, and we know that, right? But I'm only taking him in specific circumstances. Basically, when I have multiple picks next year and I go, all right, well, if this doesn't work out and he looks like Malik Willis 2.4, I can go ahead and grab Caleb Williams next year, 2.5, whatever. Great. He's got an arm. He's athletic. I'm just saying, there's nothing. If you look at his actual college production, game started, all that stuff, it's terrible. So as much as his upside is fun, and I've taken him in a couple drafts, straight up, I'll take Bryce Young over him.
Yeah. What about you, Scott? You've been on the clock at 102. Who have you taken mostly?
Well, first of all, you're lucky to get Anthony Richardson at the 102 because I've seen him go 101 in like 40% of drafts. So that's cool. But
wow.
Yeah, it's Richardson, not even close. I'm willing to make another big bet. I know we learned from Trey Lance and Justin Fields, but I'm in a startup right now. I'm taking Anthony Richardson at the 110. Before Jamar Chase, before Justin Jefferson, before Bijan Robinson, I'm taking Anthony Richardson at the 110 in a startup. Now, to be fair, in a draft, you may have a team where you go, okay, I don't need to take the risk on Anthony Richardson. I'll take Bijan Robinson. There are teams that they're ready for Bijan, draft him. But I'm in a startup and I'm building my team from the ground floor up, taking Richardson in the first round. No questions asked.
So is he behind? Is he behind Fields, ahead of Dak?
QB 10.
Who's
QB
right
10.
in front? Who's right behind?
Watson, Fields, Lamar, Burrow, Herbert, Lawrence, Mahomes, Hurts, Allen, Richardson, QB 10.
I can't wait to make a reel out of that, and just Scott's head is exploding with like player names.
I just want to piss the chat off more still. I'll take Kyler Murray over Anthony Richardson. I saw there was some Twitter. Yeah. I'm sorry. Again, Kyler Murray has actually been a top 8 QB every season of his career that he's played. Anthony Richardson started 20 games in college. Did he even start 20 games? He didn't start until his 17th year 13th. As a junior. 13th year as a junior. Thanks.
He redshirted 17.
The more people want to dig in against me on Anthony Richardson, the more I get hyperbolic about it. But I would take Kyler over him, to be quite honest with you. Kyler's actually been a QB1, a high-end QB1 in fantasy football. I'm not talking about regular football. I don't care about that. I don't care if the Cardinals ever win another game.
So let's address our first super chat of the evening. Thank you very much, Eddie T. It is a 14-team super flex, 2-point tight end premium. Kyler for Pitts straight up.
Well, Shane's Kyler's biggest fan. So what does he think here in this trade? 2 points per tight end premium here, 14-teamer, Shane.
Yeah, here's a problem. So it's a 14-team super flex. I want to say Pitts because it start 2 tight ends and it's 2-point premium.
No, just one. Start one tight end.
It's only start one tight end. Okay, well, that just made it easier. I'm going to go Kyler here.
I was going to say, if it start 2 tight ends and it's 2 PPR, I would take Kyle Pitts over 101 almost.
Yeah.
Literally, he's the most valuable player in the league. But, man.
That's not easy. So, I'll say that. In a 2-point tight end premium, Pitts is right up there with anybody outside of, I don't know, 5 or 6 of those quarterbacks.
Okay, so this isn't a Kyler Murray show, but we've already got a couple Kyler questions or Kyler mentions. You don't want to trade Kyle Pitts for Kyler Murray. You're like, what can I add to him to go get another quarterback that's not in that tier? But I bet you that's the quarterback that's available. And I don't know what Shane's portfolio looks like. Shout out to Dynasty Daddy. You can now look at your portfolio there very easily. But Shane better have like 40, 50% Kyler Murray because the way he talks about it.
The problem is I can't force people to trade him to me. I make offers. And because every time I try to trade him in any league I'm in and people disrespect them and they're
Chris
like,
Olave in a first or Kyler Murray?
It's Kyler Murray. Like some
come
random
on,
first.
Come on.
It's a
Chris Olave in a first?
Come on,
What's
Shane.
the first? What's the first?
No, how about Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson or Kyler Murray, Shane?
Ooh, now we're talking. Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. I got the two of the top 4 dynasty wide receivers.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to have to do it.
All right, let's move on to another one. We've got Professor Charlie T. He was bummed out after the stream when I joked on him for his writing last time. He was like, "Man, I thought I nailed it that time." Well, here's another try from Charlie. Thank you for the super chat as always. Flippin' Bryce is the hashtag for tonight's. It's a 10-team start 9 superflex. Drafted Anthony Richardson and Bryce to join Allen and Watson. Wide receivers are Wilson, Smith, DK, Terry McLaurin, Ridley, Flowers. Running backs, Henry, Sanders, and 5 rookies / handcuffs. Tight end is Mark Andrews. Feeling QB rich with a good roster construction, part 1. Oh God, where's the part 2? He did such a good job of nailing the English there. Is there not a part 2?
I was not in charge of starring chat.
It's supposed to auto super chat.
Oh.
Anyway.
But it doesn't if you do a part 2 and it's not
part
auto.
2. So there's a bunch of part 2s in there.
So there's a bunch of part 2s in there. We'll catch back up with it. Do you see it in the thing? What time was it? Help me out here, bros.
I'll find it. 7:44. We will find it. Yeah, we need to be. There we go.
I got it, Shane.
Yeah, I just put it up.
Thank you. What's the value in a flip? And is it different if I want to win now? What if my next first is in 26? Considering Olave or packaging up Hill, or should I go running back? What's the 102 worth post draft? Whoops.
So Charlie has a problem here where he has 4 of the top 13 quarterbacks. I mean, not in Shane's world. Anthony Richardson wouldn't be in the top 15. But aside from that, he has a QB problem and the league knows it. And he asked it. The last part was, what is the 102 worth now that I've already picked the player?
Mm-hmm.
I think people sometimes get over their skis on, man, if I just take that value, I'm going to be able to flip it in 3 weeks. But the league kind of lets you have that value in the first place, right? I'm guessing he probably tried to trade these picks on the clock. Maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, what's the plan here? I'm probably keeping Richardson, but the problem is anybody really paying for Bryce Young at this point? Like, are you going and getting a premium for Bryce Young? If you go to the team that has JSN or Jahmyr Gibbs, are they really adding much to get your Bryce Young right now, after you took Bryce Young over those guys in the draft? Or are they going to go, no, I'm good with what I got?
No, yeah, because he's going to be too pricey. He's going to be too pricey because he's, there's a difference between just 2 slots in the draft.
Someone takes Bryce Young at 104, Clay. You don't necessarily need a quarterback, so you just take Jahmyr Gibbs at 105. He approaches you a week later and says, hey, you want this Bryce Young? You give me Jahmyr Gibbs plus a second. Are you taking it? Or are you going to go, I'm probably pretty good. Like, unless you really need the quarterback, which you probably would have already done the trade earlier than that, right? You would have tried to trade with him on the clock if you had to have the quarterback. But here you're kind of like, I'm good. I'm good with what I have. So it's weird that you draft quarterbacks and then think you can flip them. You're going to have to wait till the season.
Yep. Thank you for that super chat, Charlie. Sorry we messed up your great writing there. I'm proud of you, bud. Again, he's something like 12 days older than me or something. It's funny. Okay, moving on to the next one here from Joe R. One of our constituents has a 12-team start 10 superflex, no tight end premium. Gibbs and Kincaid or Tyreek, Mixon, and Johnston.
I'm looking at Shane.
Gibbs and Kincaid or Tyreek, Mixon, and Johnston. Gibbs and Kincaid, superflex.
No tight end premium.
There's no tight end premium. Give me freaking Reek. What are we talking about here? Give me Tyreek and Quentin Johnston, who I'll trade to someone else. But no, I'll take the Tyreek side.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Why are we giving up on Tyreek Hill? Because he's retiring in 3 years, allegedly? Come on. Go get Tyreek, man.
He's going to score a lot of fantasy points for 2 or 3 more years. That's for sure.
I mean, you can almost argue it. Quentin Johnston and Joe Mixon is close to the other side, and that's just because what's Kincaid worth in a non-tight end premium? A third. That's going to get the chat fired up, right? That third for Kincaid in a non-tight end premium.
Well, here's the thing. So, what are you hoping Kincaid turns into in a non-premium? Right? You're hoping Goddard, right? Dallas Goddard and a non-premium.
If he's not Goddard, Hawkinson, it's a wasted pick.
Yeah. So, and look, and I'm all about Kincaid and premiums, but yeah, you take out that premium, then no, dude, he's not even in consideration as part of that trade. I'm more concerned, obviously, about Gibbs, but I'm not passing up on Tyreek Hill for Jahmyr Gibbs.
So here's a good question here then, because it's a non-tight end premium as well. Thank you for the super chat, Tom. Am I fine with it's a 12-team start 10 superflex PPR, no tight end premium? Am I fine with Schultz, Likely, and Kincaid as my tight end group? What do you think about that as a that as a platoon, Scott?
So people have said, "Oh, when do I take Kincaid in these 1.5 or less premium leagues, or no premium at all?" And the only caveat is before you pick him, you need to have a design for your tight end room. There is nothing worse than some of these rosters we look at, and it's non-tight end premium, and they have 7 tight ends. And then they drafted Dalton Kincaid at the 110. Oh, he was the best player available. You know, you're just burying yourself even further. So I'm fine with taking him in a tight end room like this. I still wouldn't have wanted to take him at the 111, 112, 201. Like I would have taken other players instead of him, but I'm guessing Tom just maybe fell into Kincaid and he just, I'm fine with this tight end room because honestly, he's probably his best tight end at this point.
So let's just say who's usually available right about then. Kendre Miller, Devin Achane, and Dalton Kincaid. Out of the 3, which one do you want to draft? Well, you don't want to draft any of them. Which one would you draft out of those 3? Those are the guys staring at you at 111. Or would you go another
route? Anyone but the tight end.
Anyone but the tight end. Okay.
Yep.
You're asking for a friend real quick. Who's your favorite running back out of Roschon, Spears, Bigsby, and Miller these days?
Miller.
I've got 17 shares of all of them. Who's your favorite these days?
Each?
No, I mean
probably Kendre or probably
it's a 0.25 PPC.
I'd say
pretty
Kendre
PPC.
And then Kendre, Tank, Roschon, Spears, but they're 0.25 point per carry. You're taking them over all the receivers, all the tight ends.
Right.
I got Kendre and HK Renegades. I felt pretty good about that. Got some Kendre Miller today. Yesterday. I don't know. Someday.
All right. Have another share. Thank you. Okay. We got this. Thank you for that super chat, Tom.
Oh, I'd like you to know I've gone ahead and fixed all the 2-parters that were not 2-parted. I corrected that. See, so don't try to automate me out of the company.
Exactly. AI is trying to take Shane's job.
Chat GPT can't take my job because it doesn't have human intuition.
That's awesome.
Although, according to one of our listeners, neither do I because I have autism. Anyway,
apparently, we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about Noah later as well. Okay. Shout out to Scott. Thank you, Rockstar127. Although we are a bang show, aren't we? Right? Not Rockstar. We're a bang show. Shout out to Scott for answering my Twitter DM, looking to acquire as many 24 firsts as I can. What are we giving up to get them? Superflex start 10.
Man, talk about getting the shout out and getting this question up there, and it's super, super broad. I mean,
yeah, it's broad as hell. I mean, what's the least I can sell? I don't know. Jerry Jeudy. For every Jerry Jeudy I have, can I have a 24 first? I would like to do that. I'd also like to move running backs if I could, tearing down at them and getting a 24. Wide receivers like Chris Godwin, who Scott hates all of a sudden. He doesn't hate He's the one that stuck out to me.
When you're talking and saying Scott hates, all of a sudden I'm always already watching Scott, and because I know it's coming, so I'm like waiting to watch Scott's face.
Anyway, I mean, yeah, look, I'm trying to trade ancillary pieces that aren't going to make a difference to my roster. To be quite honest with you, their warp isn't a lot over their replacement players on my roster.
Throwing out the warp.
I've been listening to Scott's podcast.
Let's quit while you're behind here. Okay, let me unstar that. I'm not digging this new auto star thing, man. It's got me confused with the colors. Last thing I need is more color confusion. Okay, let's do this. Let's address the crowd. We got 367 eyeballs in here. It's great to see you. You look gorgeous out there. We got one like from Brad Bryan. So our dad is not over on Facebook. Shane's mom isn't, and neither is Mr. Padilla's mom. So let's get them in here. Thank you so much for joining. As always, hit that like if you'd be so kind. If you're enjoying the content, easiest way to help out the channel. Let's move on to Jared Sucks. And we talked about this earlier, but let's address this. So 12-team Superflex start 10. Thoughts on stacking 2 wide receivers on the same team. Example, Tyreek Waddle, Higgins Chase, AJB, Devonta.
I mean, he just chose like probably 3 of the top 6 efficient offenses in the league. So sure,
Let me ask you this. Let me
All of
ask you
those are
this.
good.
If you have those stacks, are you now trying to go get that quarterback? Do you want to triple down?
You can do that. I think with stacks, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, I don't want to purposely overpay or seek out a stack that's at the top of the range. So I don't want to go overpay for Jamar Chase because I have Joe Burrow. I don't want to go overpay for T. Higgins because I have Joe Burrow. Like that's not where I want to focus on trying to gain the edge. Because you're probably not gaining the edge when someone goes, oh, Shane has Burrow. He wants to get Chase. Let's make him pay. Like that's typically how it goes down in a league. I am interested in looking at the bottom, like I said, the bottom end of the startable threshold, whatever that is, and you're in a start 9, start 10, 11, 12, whatever.
You like
that's where I'm.
Yeah, you like Justin Fields, DJ Moore type stacks, like more like
lower
style,
than that.
even lower than that.
Lower than that.
How
The best
Jimmy
is
Garoppolo and Jacoby Myers.
It in a league where Jacoby Myers is within your threshold. Go back and listen to some of the roster construction stuff about the threshold receivers. If the player is within the threshold and you're comfortable that they're in your startable range, why not stack at that range? Why pick another receiver? Why pick Juju Smith-Schuster over Jacoby Myers if you have a choice and you have one of the QBs with one of those players? Like it just makes no sense to not stack there because you should be able to literally swap the players for no cost.
Okay, good stuff. Luke, thank you for the super chat. 12-team Superflex. QBs are Allen, Richardson, Stroud. Running backs are Bijan, Gibbs, Charbonnet, and B-Rob. Wide receivers, London, JSN, Addison, Quentin Johnson. I guess that's who that is, right? QT. Mm-hmm. Tight end, Mayer. Can I contend now? If not, when? Moves.
It's a good roster, Luke, but I see a lot of rookies on there. I don't know if this team contends. It's got a shot if you can hang in. Maybe you buy a piece or two. You can hang in. Maybe the second half of the year you could sneak into the playoffs. But doesn't this feel like a year away, Shane? Just looking at, a lot of rookies you're counting on there day one.
Yeah, and that's the problem is look, I love rookies, but you're counting on JSN, Addison, QT, and Michael Myers to just slay this year, and I don't know that you can get that. Gibbs, I'm confident in, and Charbs,
and a QB,
and
one of his rookie QBs.
Yeah. That's why it's a little troublesome. Like, could you compete this year? Yeah, if everybody hits, obviously, but I don't think you're going to be ready to compete this year. Next year, though, yes. But what I will say is just make sure that you don't overly fall in love with JSN, Addison, or QT. Whichever one of those underperforms, look to get off of them as quickly as you can, and don't hope that there's going to be that second year rebound.
Yep. All right, appreciate that that super chat. I found a non-super chat in here that I thought was good and had a great name. Here we go. Waddling Tuna. 12-team Superflex, half PPR, start 11. Give Stroud and Freiermuth. Get Kelsey and a 24 first, early to mid. QBs are Watson, T-Law, and Love.
Come on.
Yeah.
If it's truly an early to mid first, I don't feel bad about losing.
You'll take the Kelsey side? Yeah.
An early first, and then I'm swapping Freiermuth for Kelsey, and I already have that QB room. So,
you can afford to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, do that, sir. That's a good trade for you, and I like it. Or madam. I don't know. Waddling
Tuna is probably a dude.
I'm just saying it's very I want to say the word I want to use is not correct. I'm going to say ambidextrous, but that's not the word. Ambiguous is the word that I wanted to use.
Ambiguous. There you go. Let's go to our next town hall question here comes from Mr. Stephen Hines. Thank you for the super chat. Let's see what his concern or question is here. 10 teams, start 10, 2 QB, half PPR rebuild. I have the 101, 102, 105, 108, and 109. Mahomes and Fields at QB. Javonte is the only running back listed. Olave, Devontae are my building blocks. Do I have too many picks in one draft class? I like the top 9 players at ADP this year. So it's a 2 QB. I love having 101, 102, and 105. That's gold. Go ahead, guys. I talk too much, according to one of the subs the other day.
No, listen, we need more Clay dynasty analysis, because the people don't realize that Clay does play in a lot of dynasty leagues. He just doesn't highlight his own knowledge. But yeah, I will defend Clay's dynasty knowledge all the time. So Clay, speak up when you have something on your mind.
Hammered.
I love going Anthony Richardson here at 101 just to troll everybody, because I have an ADP. It doesn't really matter.
Just mess with the ADP, yeah.
But I mean, can you get a better QB room than Mahomes, Fields, and Anthony Richardson? I mean, wow, that's pretty good. It could be a little better, but that's about as good as you can get organically without going and overpaying for Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts or whatever. But I don't think he's got too many rookies, because he has what, Shane? You like Devontae Smith, or here is Devota Smith?
I love
Devota. Devota Smith and Chris Olave, and
Devota.
I'm guessing you're going to end up with maybe Jahmyr Gibbs, maybe Jordan Addison, maybe JSN. I mean,
yeah, I'm just going to probably Gibbs, only because it's half PPR. And even though he's nominally a running back, I mean, he'll get more running back carries.
If he's there. What happens if they take Gibbs at 103 or 104? Do you then take another QB?
No, I'm taking JSN at that point. I've already said that I can't take a quarterback, anything but a quarterback at 104. But 105, all bets are off at that point. I can't be held responsible for what other people have done in the league incorrectly. I'll try to trade.
Here's a $2, and thank you again for that super chat, man. Colin
had a
Crandall,
fun comment after that.
Brilliant. Oh, look, he's using the "Don't F This Up" live stream avatar or live stream thumbnail as his avatar. That's sick. Yeah, I thought that was kind of a cool thumbnail with the blurred out background. It takes me so long though. I'm not a real graphic designer. Like, come on, get the fuck out of here. Let's go to Brian. Thank you, sir, for the super chat. 12-team start 10 Superflex PPR. After the draft, I had Bryce, Dak, Danny, Russ, and Levis at QB. Bijan, Brees, Etienne, Akers at running back. Recently traded Danny, Etienne for Lamar. Okay, sorry. Danny, Dimes, and Etienne for Lamar. That's one. And then Russ for Chubb. Thoughts on trades for a top contender?
I mean, you crushed the dude in the Danny Dimes and Travis Etienne for Lamar Jackson. That's a hammer. I was looking at this QB room before he even made any trades. I mean, that's like a Shane dream QB room. Dak, Danny Dimes, Russ Wilson, Will Levis. Like
it needs McCorkle. It needs some McCorkle Jones on there.
Yeah, you throw Mac in there. We're in good shape, dude. I love how you just took advantage of people's what's the word I'm looking for? Unfounded concerns about Lamar Jackson. And this is even worse if it was done after he signed the contract, because then you have literally no excuse to make a deal like this. So whoever made that,
he said recently, so probably maybe he did it right, like the last couple of days or so. But
yeah. I like the Chubb move too. It's a full PPR, it looks like, though, but still, I like trading Russ for Nick Chubb when you have that kind of QB room. What do you think? I mean, Russ, you can't sell him for shit.
Russ
right?
isn't elite in any shape, form, or fashion. So if you can get,
what do you guys think about that? Russ for Chubb.
I like it.
I think it's the only move you make when you have. It's the only move you can make when you have like 5 QBs and one of them is Russ, and you're like, what's the best I can get? And that's probably the best offer you're going to get for him. But now he's got Bijan, Breece Hall, and Nick Chubb, and those quarterbacks. Yeah, good stuff.
You better pray to the ACL gods.
Yeah, good Lord. Okay, let's do this one right here. Jeremy, thank you for the super chat. 10-team, 1 QB, half PPR, start 10. Trade Bijan, get JT and Judy. That's Bijan for me. I mean, if you want to go from JT to Bijan, I want a piece sexier than Jerry Judy, even though the value might be fine. It would have to be a start 11, start 12. Otherwise I wouldn't do it.
I'm not doing Okay, sorry.
No, as I said, Jerry Judy and a half PPR, 10-team, that doesn't move the needle much. And listen, you could see Jonathan Taylor conceivably produce close to Bijan for another year or two. Like, that's not crazy. But you have Bijan Robinson. Like, it's going to take more than It's going to take 2 Jonathan Taylors for me to move him in a 10-team. Fair or not. And the person that has 2 Jonathan Taylors, why would they do that?
Yeah, so in a draft that we just had, a league that I think all three of us are in, or at least two of us are in. I know that. I don't know which two, but one of them includes me. I drafted Bijan at 101, and someone offered me Brees Hall and what else did they offer me? Like Rashad White. And I was like, no, that's not going to do it. Well, but I will take Brees Hall and Jackson Smith and Jigba. And if you want to do that, sure. But like that's what it's got to be. Like Jerry Judy's not moving the needle even a little bit. I don't care what a trade calculator says, whichever one you use, DLF, KTC, DTC, ABC, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Okay, here's a question from Dan from the crowd. Would you trade Travis Kelce for the 106? I got Pat Fryermuth and Keenan Allen, Cup, CMC, so an older team. One last year, would you run it back? Give me some Travis Kelce if it's shallow and you want to win again, man. Run it back.
No, but see, I get what Dan's talking about, though, right? So you look at it, Cup, CMC, Travis Kelce, and this is one of those teams where, yes, it could win. It could also be absolutely dead next year. And then you don't have any assets to trade because they're all old. And, you know, what? Look, we don't like 30-year-old wide receivers. We definitely don't like 27-year-old running backs. So you could be in a position where you're never going to be able to get any value for them again. Now, I'm not saying it's optimal to trade him for the 106. I'd probably ask for a plus back just to make myself feel better and so that it's not a straight up 1-for-1. But I get why you would want to do that.
Yeah, it's not a tight end premium. He didn't list the number of starters or anything, so I'm just assuming it's PPR. You're turning Kelce into JSN when you have another like top 10 tight end. So it's not awesome, but it may be your only out because Shane's right. Like you're not probably bailing yourself out of Keenan Allen or Cooper Kupp right now. So Kelsey's probably the guy you can move. So take it.
So Sco has a question. What are some new roster cloggers you guys find yourselves dropping from your rosters in 23? That's a good one. What about like Justin Watson, like those types? I mean, gone.
Justin Watson's still on teams?
Oh, Justin Watson. He was a roster clogger last year.
I saw him today on, I'll call him out, Dylan. I talked to Dylan, what was it, Vergara? I'm probably jacking up his name. He has the most absurd team, and he wanted to talk and get some rookie draft help. And I was just dogging him. I was like, dude, you got to come on the live stream here in 30 minutes, drop a $50 super chat and freaking brag. These brags cost $50. Anyway, yeah, so he still had him as a roster clogger. I mean, what are your answers here?
Do you still have Diami Brown on any of your rosters? Because he could probably go. Scott, stop it.
I know, Scott. You have this trash. We've seen your auto accept trade block. We've seen your trash.
I pay attention to when you're cutting people. But usually, what wide receivers crashed last year? Is David Bell on your roster? You can immediately cut him. Like any wide receiver that bombed last year outside of even a first rounder, second rounder, because you might be able to trade them, just get rid of them. It's over. It's done. Khalil Shakur, trade him. Someone likes him. I don't know why. Yeah, I'm going to call him Shakur. Yeah, David Bell. Like anyone that falls into that cohort, just get rid of them.
I would say go back and listen to the last two Americas games. We literally go through every single skill player in the NFL. And we talk about who do I want, who would I don't want, what running backs am I cutting, which running backs am I holding. And I just crush every receiver that's a roster clogger in there. So you'll get probably 50 names. Go back and listen to those. We did an AFC and an NFC. Clay, you're muted, sir.
Nice. Colin, this is hilarious. Thank you for the super chat, man. Very generous. A couple of things. One, let's pump up the money in super chat. 2, let's get Shane out of a house where gunfire and noises are the norm. 3, I put my earbuds in and my wife said I could leave it on as you guys are funny. Nice. Well, good. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Crandall. We appreciate that.
And I appreciate Colin's concerns about me living in the I'm looking right now. I'm looking in the suburbs, man. I'm trying.
And it's wife. So, I mean, she also paid for the super chat. So let's thank her as well.
Mrs. Crandall.
Yeah. Thank you, Mrs. Crandall.
Unless he took her name. Well, then she'd still be Miss Crandall. So either way, yeah.
I'm glad you looked at that angle just in case, though. Drew Sorensen Music, thank you for the super chat, man. 10 team Superflex start 10, half PPR, 1.5 tight end premium. I'm offered Chubb and Ertz for my 24 seconds. I can also sub in Josh Jacobs or Irv Smith. Okay,
I'm
to take an
assuming-
old RB.
Yeah, I'm assuming you can't sub in Josh Jacobs for Ertz here, right? Like,
Can we get Chubb and Josh Jacobs for a third second and really blow this player away?
Can we do that? Yeah, I'll do this. I don't really care about Ertz, and I don't want it to be Irv Smith. There's got to be someone else on that roster I could take. I don't care. A fourth.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we haven't even hit 400 yet, man. Where are our people? Where's our tribe? Wake up, Trades in 5.
Hey,
come on now.
We disappointed last week, starting at a asymmetric hour, and people are revolting against us.
Let's not go back to talking about last week. Last week was a treat.
And
I walked
aliens,
around. Oh my
aliens
God.
took control of the draft board and just blew it out of the water.
Yeah, Shane decided to just auto draft the first 2 rounds. All right, Jared sucks. We already covered this one. Thank you again. Let's go to this one from James Sampson. 12 team. I haven't done this one right. Yeah. 12 team, half PPR, start 9, 1 QB. QBs are Young, Anthony Richardson, Watson. We have Gibbs, Charbonnet, Stevenson, Jefferson, Chase, Lamb, AJB, Garrett Wilson, and JSN. 124 first, 225 first. Moves.
I mean, I got
Come
real
on.
excited when I saw Young, Anthony
Come
Richardson, and Watson, and then I saw 1
Then
QB,
you-
and oh man,
Yeah.
that sucks.
Stop drafting quarterbacks. There's my first move.
I mean, you don't know where he got him, but yeah, probably paid too much considering his roster construction. I love Anthony Richardson. Can I trade him in this league? And what was the debate? We picking him in the mid first of a 1 QB league. Can I get a future first for Anthony Richardson or a first in something else? Like, can I get out of that value in a 1 QB league when I probably took him a little too high?
Yeah, you already have Deshaun. I mean, look, I don't want to cry over spilt milk here, right? Because what's done is done. Just don't do it again. Moves. I mean, it's a half PPR, right? So your wide receiver room is sexy as balls, but I wouldn't mind taking 1 or 2 of those and getting me some running backs because Gibbs is fine. Charbs, I believe, is eventually going to be good-ish, and then Stevenson should be fine, but.
He has the greatest receiver room in history of Dynasty.
But unfortunately, it's a half PPR. So let's take one of those wide receivers and see if we can't snooker someone into giving us a high-end running back.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you for that super chat, James. I found one here. It was a good one. And I like the name here. Was it Vachetti? I like it.
Vachetti.
Vachetti?
Vachetti.
Definitely Vachetti.
I'm going to Vachetti.
Yeah, it's Vachetti.
Oh, wait. Shane's going with what I'm saying. I'm not going that then. Okay. He asks, he or she asks, does your startup approach change in a 12-team Superflex start 11?
No, in fact, my ideal startup was based on a 12-team start 11 because the deeper it goes, it actually allows you to exploit those trade backs even more because the picks you're getting that are a little further down the board matter more. Where it's tough is like a start 9 or a start 8. I don't know why anyone would willfully go play in a start 8, but people do. But a start 8 or a start 9, it hurts more to not have access to the positional advantage at tight end or at running back. But the quarterback advantage means more in a start 9 because there's only 9 starters. So I think start 11 is actually perfect to just exploit this strategy as Clay disappears from the screen. Shane, you got any thoughts? Hi, Clay. You're back.
I mean, I'm going to say no because, again, this is kind of what we play in, like start 11 or more. Like that's what our approach was based on. Actually, our approach has to be like we have to retrofit it when we start doing roster reviews and start talking about teams that are start 9, start 10, things like that. I will say, just in general, I am getting very interested in how deep the quarterback 1 tier actually is going to be over the next 2 years. But we can talk about that later.
So this kind of plays into it, or at least here's where my head's going. We'll see how coherent this is. So when I see 12 team Superflex start 11, every time I'm thinking about startups, we talk about, trying to stack picks later in the draft. Like you've got a handful of them, a cluster rather, it like the 8th, the 9th, the 10th. When I see like a start 11, like a solid 12 team Superflex start 11, I like to have clusters of picks in those rounds. 8, 9, 7, 8, 9. What do you think about that, Scott? Because those are like start 11 players that you get in that area,
Yeah, and I think if you just look at, and I'm going to talk about this more, we're going to eventually bring the warp discussion stuff to trades in 5. But even if you just start looking into that, or you just look at like scoring distribution at each position, you'll start to notice that it flattens off in a range where if you have wide receiver 25 versus wide receiver 45, the only difference is probably that you're not starting wide receiver 45 if you have a choice. But if you don't have a choice, that's going to be your 11th starter. That's going to be your wide receiver 5.
Right.
You're going to put those guys in because you don't have anybody better. But from a like pure production standpoint, it's not that different. Now, Shane hit it on earlier. The value difference in those players is way different. There's a big difference between Drake London and, I don't know, Cortland Sutton. I keep saying him, but he's somebody that I could see scoring 12 points per game. I could see Drake London scoring 12 points per game. There's a big difference, though, in terms of the type of asset you're getting. If you had those two players, you're like, wow, they gave me very similar production. But what happens next January? Cortland Sutton, you're going to have to replace. He's not going to hold his value. He's going to fall off the map. At best, he stays where he was. Drake London, all he needs is something to change in his situation, and he stays or goes higher. So you have a different type of asset there. So I think it's more of just exploiting the fact that, especially if you do this in January or February, if you do it in August, it's not as big of an edge. There's a lot more that's happened. If you're doing this in January, anyone in here that's done a startup in January, put a comment in the chat. How bad are some of the picks? Picks are like, oh man,
being horrible.
I just saw it happen a month ago, so let me pick that guy here. And then you go, wow, that didn't work out because he just got crushed throughout the whole offseason. Right. And now he's a 9th round startup pick, and you took him at round 5 in the startup in January. So,
yeah. Okay, let's move on to this one here. It is a 12-team full PPR Superflex start 10. Are you trading Bijan to get Jefferson?
Yes.
Jefferson.
Yes.
All day. If it were half PPR, does that make? Let's say it was this. Let's say it was a half PPR start 8.
I just looked up the scoring. If you look at, I think it was DLF's mailbag this week I did, where I looked at the scoring for this, or I made that up and I was looking at something else. But whatever, even in half PPR scoring, Jefferson was still smashing. But man, it'd be hard to trade Bijan in a half PPR.
Yeah, I don't think
I'm gonna have to go Bijan. But it's a full PPR, so I'm going Jefferson.
I think the only other thing is this is about as good of a, like, I'm cashing out with no risk play. Like this, that's one of the few players you'd go, yeah, I've waited a year for Bijan, but there you go. See ya. He's out.
Yeah, and maybe he earned the 101. He or she earned the 101 and, can get Jefferson, isn't going to win for a couple of years anyway, so you're not too worried about stacking that team with Bijan,
Well, Tristan followed up and he wanted to know what's the reason for taking JJ over Bijan. Seems like Bijan could be a running back one for 5 or 6 years. Well, JJ may not have a good quarterback play starting in 2024. Tristan, don't worry about quarterback play. Talent overrules everything. Never think that a running back is going to be a running back one for 5 or 6 years. Those are called supreme outliers. I
would like to, if we're going to do this meeting style, like, do they have gavels at town hall meetings?
Yes.
Is there like a gavel?
Yeah. Gavel.
So I'm going to hit the gavel and go back to your comment earlier, Shane, about how you'd be worried if you had a bunch of Atlanta Falcons stacked because they don't really have a QB situation right now. So you said that doesn't matter. Don't worry about quarterback. Explain yourself.
Well, we were talking about one specific instance of stacking, right? So stacking, I'm a little concerned. I'm not going to try to stack them on a bad offense. It's not going to be a good offense. There's not going to be a quarterback to support Kyle Pitts and Drake London. Will they get a quarterback at some point? But guess what? They're going to be just good enough where they're going to be in the Sam Howell range. This was the year they could have gotten a quarterback, and they decided not to. They needed a running back. So good for them. I hope it works out. But also, JJ, good.
I was to say, I would call me a homer. I would trade for Chase over Jefferson.
That's fine.
I think. I mean, if you can get Jefferson, try for Chase first, because I mean, he's already done kind of what you hope Jefferson continues to do, and Jefferson's maybe he's getting his T. Higgins with Jordan Addison, maybe, and he might be losing his quarterback. And I agree with Shane, talent over everything, but if you put a rookie quarterback with Justin Jefferson, he's gonna regress from a fantasy production standpoint for at least a year. Fair or not?
But just to Tristan's other point, can we circle in any running back to be a running back one for 5
to 6 years? No.
Yeah, and I mean, even like the long-term ones, like you look at Christian McCaffrey, there's like 2 years in that's time span of his career where you went, Jesus Christ, he's absolutely useless to me because he was injured, because of injuries. It's just a position that gets injured more often. It just happens.
So Matt West asks, thank you, Matt, which FAAB rookies to target and how much to spend? We were talking about this last night. We recorded a show. It was just kind of like a loose, what are we going to call it? Like fireside chat or something like that. And I think we were talking about how much FAAB you would drop on a rookie. And in some formats, you might be spending 20%. But go ahead, Scott, you want to start on this one?
I mean, I have my portfolio pulled up. So leagues where tight ends matter. So 1.75 or higher. Ideally like 2 tight ends, but even 1.75 or higher. Elijah Higgins. I have Elijah Higgins everywhere I can get Elijah Higgins. So there's one. Running backs, which is going to apply to everybody. I don't know why people aren't drafting Kenny McIntosh, probably because he landed on the Seahawks and they figure, he's never going to get a chance. But what if he's the best pass catching running back on the Seahawks, which is probably a very good chance that he's going to have a role. People don't want to hear that, but he's a guy you can literally get for nothing. So that's another one. I don't know if there's any other specific ones that are obvious targets. Amari DiMercado is one you can get for free. You can get Tyon Evans for free. You can get Xavier Valade for free. These are all running backs with a chance to make a team. So that's what I'm usually targeting. So I have those guys everywhere.
Okay. All right. I'm just turning off super chats. Thank you to everyone who's been generous thus far. And I will say too, for non-supers, we definitely like to cherry pick more topic questions, like the stacking question or value of this and that. So we'll be trying to prioritize that as we have 35 minutes left.
Yes, sir.
Look down, hit the like. Appreciate that. Okay. I swear I was just about to go to something. I was going to turn off the supers, but let me put something up here first. Okay.
I'm just putting this up there because this correlates with the last question. Yes. Do not pick these guys up.
Is that Xavier Hutchinson?
Xavier Hutchinson, Justin Shorter, A.T. Perry. That just not interested in those guys. People pick them up and people draft them, but yeah, that's not where I'm spending my waiver dollars. Not on day 3 receivers.
I saw a rookie review article on Xavier Hutchinson after the draft, and I went, "Why would anyone read this?" But it's just me.
So here, I'll put this up, read it, and then mess around in the background. So mess around, like turn off a couple of things. Phil Simmerman asks, "What's the most trades you've made in one rookie draft?" Just had mine, and my number is 7 trades. Let me know if you want them after the live. I think 7 in a rookie draft is pretty solid. For a startup, that's pretty weak. But what do you think, guys?
So look, I used to be all about I need to prove how big my dick is by making as many trades as possible, right? Like just making trades to make trades. Like, oh, dude, I made 15 trades in the startup. And they're like, well, what did you get out of it? And I look back and I go, I don't really know, but I made 15 trades. Word. It's not the amount of trades, it's how you use the trades. And just like a euphemism for your penis, it's not how big it is, it's how well you use it. So I'm not worried about how many trades I make. I'm more worried about how effective those trades are and targeted and how they fit the fixing and building my team. That said, the most I've ever made in a rookie draft is probably like 4 or 5. Here's the thing. After the first round, I generally don't care anymore. Like I keep getting offers in all these drafts that are in the 3rd and 4th round. People are like, "Here, you want this 3rd round pick for your future 3rd or whatever?" And I'm like, "No, I don't. No, thank you."
No, thank you.
I mean, those count. Those are process trades where you're liquidating for the future. Like those matter. So if you're going to count
Well,
those,
yeah, but I'm saying I don't want to trade future picks to get into this class at 309. Like I don't care. I don't want it. I mean, there was one league I was trying to get Darnell Washington in, but someone wouldn't trade with me, so I couldn't do anything about that packering.
Yeah, I still need to cut some leagues because I mean I don't make tons and tons of trades because I'm just freaking bogged down. Patrick Murash, I find myself getting sick of certain players and re-rolling on the waiver wire a lot. Is this a good strategy to replace middling vets with rookie darts? Thank you for the super chat. That's a good question.
yeah, I mean, the one benefit of this time of year is that there's a brand new set of players that just entered the league. So if you're talking about drafting a 3rd or 4th running back on a team and you're picking up another one, I'd probably rather have the new player. Same with some of these rookie tight ends. Like there's some really good Raz tight ends out there that I'm rostering a ton of, but if I can replace them with Will Mallory or Josh Wiley or someone like that, I'd probably rather have the new one just because there might be a shot that there's some sort of movement with that player because they're a new player. But that's really it. Like you kind of got to just balance and diversify. And in ranges like that, I don't want to just chase the rookies. I want to be because it doesn't matter as much, right? Like I want to kind of diversify and pick the players that I really like that I think I could flip later. That's really what's driving those moves.
Yeah. Let me ask this one. This is just something came top of mind for me. So let's name off some players because I've seen some questions about this. Let's just assume it's a 12-team Superflex start 10. You're at the 204, 5, 6, 7 range, right? What are some vets that you would look to give up to jump into that range? Like what would you give Marquise Hollywood Brown away for the 204 if you were eyeing a player, if you wanted a running back and a point per carry? Are you giving up Hollywood? Shane, I see you shaking your head.
I could not shake my head any harder. No. So I'm going to take the risk of a 204 running back over Marquise Hollywood, even in a PPC. 2nd round running back in this draft. Let's see. No, definitely not. Like that's not even a guy that's going to be I could see if it was a guy you could talk yourself into being a long-term starter. Like you could just find that narrative and run with it. You can't even run with that narrative with any of these guys in the 2nd round. Marquise Brown is a proven asset, and he's still only 25 years old. No.
Yeah, I think if you listen to the last DD show where I talked about the warp, that's the range where I really don't want to give up anything of value to get in because I feel like, especially this year, even in point per carry, Clay had to throw that point per carry in there where it's like, I'm definitely taking running backs. There's plenty of running backs to take in the 2nd round this year, which is good. But I'm still picking between 6 or 7 players. And I'm just going to have to shoot my shot on one of them. Right. So if I have those picks and I can't get out of those picks, then I don't need to trade the pick I'm going to draft Kendre Miller or Tank Bigsby or Roshan Johnson with for Marquise Brown in a point per carry. But I'm not looking and going, let me sell to get into this range. Honestly, I'd probably rather do the opposite, defer the pick for later and use it elsewhere.
Tell you what, could I trade you Michael Gallup to get in there? I'll trade you several Michael Gallups, all my Michael Gallups. All right, well then that's what I'm willing to pay. So I'm not going to get in there.
Kadarius Toney or the 210?
Give me the 210.
I'll take Kadarius Toney.
F-bomb Tony. That's I can't do him. I just can't do it. He's going to be one of those players I never own.
Dude, he goes out there and gets 70 yards in the first week and 2 carries for 12 yards. The community is going to go ape shit over him, and everyone's going to want to buy him. They love Kadarius Toney.
We're on to something when I just randomly pick a trade and you guys are arguing about it. That's great.
Yeah. Jake Kelly, thank you for the super chat, man. 1 QB start 8. Traded my 202 for Khalil Herbert. Traded my 202 for Khalil Herbert. Kendre Miller and Tank still on the board. Bad decision? You guys the best.
Yes, that was a bad decision. I'd much rather Kendre Miller over Khalil Herbert. But This is one of those
It's a start
decisions.
8. It's a start 8. So
I'm not starting
is this going to matter? Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, it could matter. Kendre Miller has a better shot at being the starter than Khalil Herbert, I believe. But that's my belief. Yeah.
So if I'm a billionaire and I spend $10,000 on an iPhone, is that a bad decision, Shane?
Yes. It's still a bad
but
decision.
but does it matter that much?
In the long run, does it matter? No.
No.
Yeah. So no, this doesn't really matter, Jake.
That I think that's the point. Is it's a start 8. So like, yeah, sure. I'd rather have Tank Bigsby or Kendre Miller or the 202. Anything but Khalil Herbert in this trade. But really, the goal should have been, how can I take one of those 4 assets on the screen right now? Can I move for something better? And it's probably not Khalil Herbert, which is why he's the wrong answer. But it's not. You didn't go bankrupt making that trade, so you're good.
You could make a ton of these trades, literally the same trade. You could trade 202 every year for some random screw up, and it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't affect you that badly. Don't do that with the 102 now.
All right. Let me catch myself there. That was one of Scott's better analogies. Like, he's like, all right, so you're a billionaire. It's like, all right, let's see where this goes. Okay, excuse me. Chris, thank you for the question, man. Chris is in our audience tonight. He's been raising his hand quite feverishly. He finally got to his question. How many good players do you want on your bench before you trade a few away? I have a stacked bench, so I went ahead and traded some players for future picks so I don't have too much wasted value. And this is a 1 QB.
You can tell Chris has listened to the show before, because that's a perfect strategy. If you have the best team in the league, the worst thing you can do is be like, I can't trade any pieces that are win now because I'm the best team in the league. You should be going, how do I trade the pieces that are really not going to kill me if I trade them away to my opponents that are having to take risks to try to beat me? But what if they don't beat me? And now I hold their picks. You think I'm good now? Wait till 2 years down the road when I have 6 firsts and the best team in the league. Shane, we've seen some of these rosters in roster reviews where it's like, oh my, the league has no chance. I mean, Shane's literal comment is, you just don't screw it up. I don't even have any other advice. Just don't mess it up and you're going to be fine.
Yep. Shane. The best last night, I think it was last night, when we were recording. There are times, Scott, when I ask you a question and you're talking, and Shane just has this like blank look on his eyes, but it's not blank. It's like engaged. You can tell he's reading something funny. And he's being like charged by something. I have to look really carefully at last night's show to find that moment. But
I am always engaged in listening to everything both of you have to say.
Yep. We're up to 425 people in here, or 425 eyeballs, excuse me. Thank you so much for joining. Hit that like if you're enjoying. This is our Tuesday OG crew, man. These are been our freaking OGs for how many months, or a year? I mean, how long have we been doing that? How long have we been doing the Tuesday thing?
About a year. Not
Nice.
even. No, we started last regular season.
Okay.
But it wasn't on Tuesdays. It was Saturdays.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Clearly, I don't remember. I'm just making all this up as I go along. Let's get to some of these questions.
So that's the stacked bench. I can unstar that one. Okay, so Ginger, when you talk wide receiver threshold, do you use numbers for warp or what? So say for your league is threshold wide receiver 50, random number there. Do you use top 50 wide receiver from warp?
When you use wide receiver threshold, do you use numbers for warp, or do you say your league threshold? So I think this is the biggest thing that I need to probably be better at, and I'm working on this. This is one of my biggest projects at DD, is to try to figure out how to turn warp into actionable advice for people, because it's an easy term to throw around, but when you're thinking of warp, you probably don't want to immediately look at players. That's not what it's speaking to. Sure, you can say, yes, last year, Shane, this player had this warp. Really what you're trying to figure out is, where does that player fit in the construction of your team? So like when you look at threshold receivers, I did that episode earlier in the offseason where I talked about the receivers that would be what I thought would be inside or outside of my threshold. But to calculate kind of how far you want to go out at receiver, you have to know how many receivers do you start, how many flexes do you have, how many bench spots do you have. Like, it's going to be a formula that you have to kind of go through based on your league settings. Then kind of figure out, okay, who are the players that fit in there? It isn't about looking at their warp last year. There's players that had terrible warp last year, but then you go, well, they could be good this year. Doesn't mean you don't pick them because they were bad last year. It's really, what do they represent on your team? So if it's top 50, I don't necessarily care about who the top 50 receivers in warp last year. A lot of them are going to be the same, but I think it's an intuitive thing where you have to kind of look at each season brand new, but look at your construction of like, okay, if I'm only going to roster 8 receivers on this team, I probably don't want 6 of them to be outside of the top 30. That I have too many guys that are like too close to that roster clogger range where one mishap and they're down in roster clogger range. So I think you have to look at it that way. It's not about the players as much. And I promise I'm going to try to do a better job of articulating that on future content.
It's a challenging thing. It's a challenging concept. You know, it really is. But what always gets me, and this is something that I'm sure you'll explain too, is when you're talking about warp and you talk about how it's a negative warp. So when you're looking at like the 204, 205, something like that, making that pick, that's actually a negative move in terms of like warp, right? Like you basically burned that.
Well, so here, I'll bring this because I think it does confuse people when you're talking negative warp.
Yeah.
Really what you're looking at is how did that player finish relative to all the other players at his position? So when a player has negative warp, and I'll give a shout out to Jordan McNamara because he did this like 4 years ago.
So many years ago. Analytics Dynasty.
He worked with something called A warp, which is different. A warp is adjusted warp talking about like the sit start rate compared to the warp. There's a big difference because that's one thing we don't have in Dynasty. We don't have good sit start rate data in Dynasty. Every league's different. There's players on your bench in a start 9 that are in your lineup in a start 13. There's no way we can find like sit start data like you could on FFPC, where they have literally 100,000 leagues of the same format. They can tell you how many leagues did this running back get started, 46.4% of the time. So it's very easy to calculate like what that player's A warp was because it's based on how many times they were started. A player is going to have negative warp if they would have been in your lineup 15 times and they were terrible. But if he's terrible, he's not going to be in your lineup. So I think that's where we use this as don't look at negative warp players to say they suck. Maybe they just didn't have opportunity. And there's a difference. So it's what do they represent on your team versus, you know, what's their market value or how do they fit in going forward?
Right.
There's a lot to it. I promise I'm trying to get better at bringing it to the masses without just going over everybody's head.
All good. Thank you for your efforts, sir, for this community. Same to you, Shane. Shane, you're going to be the first on this question. Keep you on your toes here. Sloan, thank you for the super chat. 12 team Superflex PPR start 9. It's a no waiver league. Bench spots filled after rookie draft. Any strategy advice for a league like this? Any positions you load up on?
I don't even understand the question.
How many bench spots are there?
So you have no waivers. So everything you have to trade for everything, right? Basically, is that's how I'm reading that? Bench spots filled.
It's like this sounds magical. You just have to trade for everything.
Like I don't understand. You just trade any positions to fill up on. It's start 9. I'm gonna fill up at running back, and I'm assuming I already got quarterbacks because it's super flex. Am I misunderstanding, Clay? You listen.
Well, I am curious how if there's no waivers, is there like one waiver run and then it's it?
In-season draft something? Yeah. I don't know.
Sloan, tell us if you're still here listening, tell us what you mean. Give us some help with your question. We'll leave it start here. Let's go to Vince here. Great show, guys. Thank you for the super chat, Vince. 2 guys I wanted your opinions on that I haven't really heard much talk on at all are Mingo and Reed, both top 50 capital, with Mingo getting top 40. And no, Scott, you can't trade out to 24. All I've heard is basic bitch rupee. I messed that up because the basic bitch part, he crushed it. All I've heard is basic bitch rookie sleeper content on Reed. You guys have planted a flag on top 50 cap, wondering what your strategy is.
Well, right off the bat, who do you like better, Scott, if you have to pick one?
I have 4 Jaden Reed shares and 0 Jonathan Mingo shares. So at cost, I definitely would say Jaden Reed. But and here's my retort to the top 50 capital. I didn't like their profiles, but they got capital that's at least worth paying attention to. So I don't want to leave drafts with 0. I have a little bit of, and again, I'm playing in 50 leagues, so there's difference between 2 leagues and 50. I have a couple shares of Jaden Reed, Marvin Mims, Rashee Rice. Like, I'm taking a couple because I acknowledge that there is probably 1 or 2 receivers out of this class. You can throw in Cedric Tillman, Josh Downs, Jalen Hyatt. There's a group of like 7 of them there where you say probably 1 or 2 of them could end up good. I don't know which. Saying Jaden Reed was picked 50th and Jalen Hyatt was picked in the 3rd round, saying they're different historically is not true. Pick 50 and pick 70 are really no different from a production standpoint historically. But I acknowledge there's probably 1 or 2 of those guys that ends up being a Deontay Johnson or even just like a Michael Gallup where it's like he's highly valued for 2 years and then falls off. But they look like they're a hit after their rookie year. So I want to have some exposure. And that's really it. It's not
exactly.
I think the reason you get basic bitch analysis about well, no, you get basic bitch analysis about Jaden Reed is because what do you want people to say? People didn't like him a lot. He went in the top 50, but he didn't go in the 1st round, but he didn't fall to the 4th round. So I think he is what he is. He's a 2nd round receiver. Like,
I'm taking Jaden Reed all day over Jonathan Mingo. Jonathan Mingo is trash. He did nothing ever.
Now that's
he
not
didn't deserve his
bitch
capital.
analysis.
He didn't deserve
That
his
is hot
capital.
takey.
That shit was stolen. Jaden Reed was drafted accordingly, and I don't know. I just like Jaden Reed better than Jonathan Mingo. And drafting at cost, I'm taking Jaden Reed every day, but I also like his situation a little better.
The tiebreaker for me in Mingo versus Reed is Mingo's name. Mingo's name is cooler, so he's got more. He's more of a live fungible asset for me. Okay,
so here's one thing I want to ask your opinion on, Clay. This is where I'm going to lean on Clay. Jonathan Mingo, I acknowledge I didn't expect Jonathan Mingo to go in the top 40. Big difference historically than like top 40 versus top 60 or top 50 even. But he went in the top 40. Now there's some expectations on him. I've seen him go in the late 1st rounds of some drafts, right? What if he doesn't go out? Shouldn't he go out and slaughter DJ Chark, Terrace Marshall, and Adam Thielen day 1? And if he doesn't, will we hear excuses about how he was blocked by those 3, yet I bet you most people would say those 3 guys are trash. So which is it? Because if it was Jordan Addison and he doesn't produce right away, he'll get crushed. But it kind of feels like there's already some excuse, maybe a little bit of an excuse for Mingo because, well, he has these other 3 guys, but shouldn't he be able to crush those guys right away if he's any good?
Yeah, and Shane's going to have to pick me up off the floor on this one when I try to explain this. This is way too 5D for me right now. But no, when I think of that, when you were talking through that, Mingo, we don't have insight into why the teams drafted them and where they see them as a fit in their roster construction or their plans. Is it a year 2 plan for them, or what did they have in mind? They have this big board. Okay, so what is Mingo going to mean to them? What does that look like on their team? That's always where my head goes. I wish we had more insight into that. Instead, I mean, all I can do is just look at league trade value, dynasty value in your specific league. Like, are they a Mingo league or are they a Reed league?
And I'll just add this because I was talking to Eric, my co-host on America's Game, and he was saying he grinds. He was listening to all the press conferences of every 1st round pick and all basically most of the top 50 picks.
Respect.
And he said one thing the Panthers GM talked about was they don't want to invest in receiver. They don't like investing in receiver. So plan on Mingo probably being like the best receiver that Bryce Young ever gets from a draft capital standpoint. Every year they're going to go DJ Chark, Adam Thielen. They're going to try to play this kind of like a bunch of roster clogger receivers. Now, if that's good and bad. If I said Jonathan Mingo is the best receiver Bryce Young will ever get, that's a little depressing, right, Shane? Probably. at the same time, if Jonathan Mingo's the best receiver they're ever going to get, he should be good if he's good, right? Like his opportunity to be the guy for a long time could be really high. So, but it was interesting. He said, basically, we don't want to pay the current market rate for receivers. We don't want to go out and use first round capital and pay these receivers $25 million a year. So it'll be interesting if that tracks, but if that's truly their philosophy, they probably think they got a really good value on Mingo. Like he was the guy they were willing to take in the top 40 if that's their philosophy.
Yeah, just looking at things to fall back on. You look at the things that we the old school things, breakout age, college dominator rating, target share, all those favor Jaden Reed for what it's worth. Just all the things that indicate someone's going to be a better player in the NFL. Favor Jaden Reed. Although, what school did he went to? Michigan, right?
Michigan State.
Ooh, well, it's still a Big Ten school, even if it was state.
I've actually got sirens and stuff going by me this time. I'm in Baltimore, so that makes sense. Shane and I are simpatico tonight. Sugar Tunichi. No.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you for the super chat. Oh, is that Trey Lance? Half Trey Lance? I don't know who that other guy is. I forget his name.
George Jefferson and Trey Lance.
George Jefferson, and it's Tanichi.
Not Richard
Wayne.
Jefferson.
Startup philosophy. 12-team PPR, tight end premium, rookie draft after. Am I wrong to draft my QB in the first, then go young wide receiver till 6th to 7th, then go RB later? So this is is it a single QB league?
Yeah, the way it's, or he's just not.
I guess so, right?
Quarterback.
It's just going to take the best one QB quarterback and then just. What do you think?
I mean, I'm not taking a quarterback.
I need to get my water. I'll be right back.
No, look, even in one QB leagues, as soon as I've seen a quarterback go, and it's generally Pat Mahomes, is like in the 3rd round. I've never seen him go in the 1st round in a one quarterback league. So I would not ever say that you should do that. Absolutely ever. Never.
Let me ask you this question. He does say in the chat, Superflex. That definitely makes a difference.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have we talked about Superflex startup strategies? Like you're definitely taking a quarterback early if you're in a spot where you can pick a quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't mind the take receivers every pick after that, but obviously that's not what I would try to do ideally. I'm trying to trade around. I'm not just picking. And I definitely want more than one quarterback, and then I'm not taking all receivers. Right. Like you got to try to find a way to get a better quarterback.
Okay, thank you for that super chat. Let's move on to the next one. We got a bunch to rock through here. 10 more minutes, so we got this. Okay, let's go to this one right here. Chris, did we already do this?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, good stuff. On Star. Let's go to Chris's super chat. Thank you. It's shout out Shane on the DM, though I didn't listen. 2 weeks ago, that's awesome. That's awesome. I gotta reread that. Chris says, shout out Shane on the DM, though I didn't listen. 2 weeks ago, I was the guy that got screwed by, this is the guy who got screwed by the draft lotto. Yeah. 101 and 103 turned into 104 and 105. League voted to go to Superflex in 25. Start 10 PPR, no tight end premium. And then the second went 104 Addison, 105 QJ, 109 Bryce.
Love that. Oh,
I wonder if Richardson was there. 201 Levis, 202 Roshan, 208 Zach Evans, 304 Hyatt. Still have a couple of fifths, 502 and 512. Thoughts? Acquired 5+ future late round picks in the process. We also have 6 IDP.
I mean, I like your rookie draft. Although it's Addison at 104. Oh, because right now it's still played like a one quarterback. So that means, I guess, obviously Bijan, Gibbs, and then Jackson Smith and Jigba went off the board, and that's why he got Addison. Wouldn't now be a good time to start drafting IDP players? Like it feels like the IDP players would hold more value at this point of the draft than the offensive players. And I need to go wash my mouth out after.
Man, I struggle with the moving back from the 101 and the 103. Chris, good job. You didn't take any tight ends. Good move.
Yep.
I don't love taking Will Levis in this format. He literally could be gone by 2025 when it goes to Superflex. So this wouldn't have probably been the spot where I would have taken him. I would have gone with somebody else. Like I would have taken probably one of the other running backs maybe that was available. One of the receivers we've talked about. Like I wouldn't have leaned into the Superflex. You know, given his roster, I wouldn't lean into the Superflex that much with the Levis pick after he took Bryce. But otherwise, I mean, it's okay.
Yeah. And remember, he didn't purposely move down. The draft lottery screwed him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just also important, an important note, just because you ask us questions in our DMs doesn't mean you have to agree with us.
For sure.
No, definitely not. Yeah. I mean,
I actually, when you push back a little, I like that, make me think. Because there's
The
sometimes
best are when I get a DM and it says, "Hey, Shane." Oh, I meant Scott. I'm like, oh, he sent that one to Shane. And I wonder what Shane said then. Sometimes we give literally the complete opposite answer.
Yeah, no, that's good. Okay, let's keep on rolling here, boys. So Adam Walker, thank you for your super chat. 12-team Superflex Start 9 PPR 1.5 tight end premium. Have Watson, Fields, Lance, Howell, AR-15, Bijan, Ken Walker, Stevenson, and rookies. A.J. Brown, Lamb, Elijah Moore, Bateman, Tony, Addison at the wide receivers. Tight end is Njoku, Juwan, and Chig. Should I consolidate for a stronger wide receiver 3 or focus on tight end? I can compete this year and have all 2024 picks.
Well, he's got Sam Howell and Trey Lance that he can move. I would also feel comfortable moving. Hate to say it, but if you could get an absolute haul for Anthony Richardson, I could justify selling him with Watson and Fields already. Although I'm greedy, I like to have that Watson, Fields, Anthony Richardson QB room, but I think he knows what he needs to do, right? Like he already kind of posted, he can use that extra quarterback asset tree or whatever he has. I think you can definitely move that to try to contend this year, and you still have your picks next year, so that's another dart you can throw if you want to. How the hell did he accumulate those quarterbacks? That's nice.
No.
Well, I mean, Fields, you could have bought low on. Remember, that's why I have so much Watson in my leagues, is because everyone started hating him. And I was like, all right, well, I don't care about morals anymore. I'm going to trade for this guy. Fields, after his rookie season, a lot of people were like, oh, this dude is just absolutely horrendous, And then Lance, well, yeah, it's Lance.
It's Lance, right? All right, let's keep on rolling here, guys. So let's go to Joseph Grant. Have we done this? Nope. That's the first time I'm reading Gabe Davis tonight. 12-team Superflex, start 11, 6 point per passing touchdown. Gave Anthony Richardson 224 thirds. Received Stroud, a random 24 first. Gabe Davis, James Conner. Thoughts?
Looking at you, Scott.
Man. Yeah, I mean, it's start 11, and I'm still probably getting 2 usable players in James Conner and Gabe Davis, and I'm pivoting off of Richardson to get Stroud and a first. I think I can take the receive side. As much as I hate to give up that A-Rich, the process says take the get side. So Joseph did a good job here.
Yeah, I'm on the received side by about a kabillion. So
and his 6 point passing touchdown, which yes. I would prefer. The Richardson Stroud gap is a little closer there. So good job.
You're on mute, Clay. No one can hear you.
Thank you, Shane. It's like very aggressive. Could just be like Clay. Joey, thank you for the super chat. 10-team Superflex start 8. QBs are Allen, Kyler, Tua, Lance. Running backs, Rashad White, Khalil Herbert, Charbonnet. Wide receivers, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, JSN, Watson, Amari. 124 first, 725 first. What kinds of trades should I be looking for to upgrade at running back? Look at that. Went ahead and just started gobbling up them 25 first. Shane said that it was actually going to be a year that it was going to happen. And Joey Estrada's like, man, I'm getting every damn 25 first in my league.
Can I get a better quarterback? Can I add a first
Kyler.
to Kyler Can I add 2 firsts to Kyler and get a better
Mahomes.
quarterback?
Yeah, I
Add
mean, honestly,
325 first on top of
you
Kyler for
you have
Mahomes.
725 first. Yeah, at that point, it's time to just be ridiculous. Like you said, here's 225 first and Kyler Murray. Can I please have Patrick Mahomes? He doesn't. He only has
I'll
124
give him
first.
3 or 4.
And it's a
It's
start
start
8
eight.
though.
Yeah.
So like that it taking my only issue with this team is he's weak at running back as well. And he doesn't have a hammer wide receiver. He has good receivers, but he doesn't have a hammer receiver. It's a start 8. Like, what's going to win? He has a nice team. He has a lot of assets, but he has – how many assets did he name on the screen there? 20 in a start 8. Like, you got to find a way to consolidate wherever it is, whether it's quarterbacks, whether it's picks, getting a hammer running back. Like, he mentions, should I trade to upgrade at running back? I think you need to try to upgrade everywhere.
Yep. Let's go to Hoop Dreams here. We've got an inbox offer. 12 team.
Great movie.
Yes, sir. 12 team, Superflex, start 10, half PPR, 6 point per passing touchdown. Give Herbert. Every time I see give Herbert, I'm like, what are we doing here? Give Herbert, get Jefferson. QBs are Herbert, Hurts, Fields, Richardson. Wide receivers are Waddle, Higgins, Wilson, London, JSN, Judy. I'm not doing that.
Can I trade them
man.
Anthony Richardson for Jefferson?
Yeah. I need
Scott,
4 firsts.
That.
I need 4 firsts worth of value for Herbert, and it's a half PPR. Now.
And here's the thing. I'm holding on to those 4 until I get an even better deal. You know why? Because you don't have the one I'm trading away. Period. Someone else is benefiting more from this trade than I am, most likely. I'm holding out for more. I agree with Shane. I would trade Fields or Richardson before I would trade Herbert or Hurts in a 6 point passing touchdown.
Yep. Okay.
Well, let me ask Shane this. What's the counter? Because I think Shane is saying quiet. But if that was him, he would heavily consider that trade.
Yes,
what on top of Jefferson would make you say, okay, I have to make a move, and this is probably the best player I'm ever going to get offered for a QB? What would it have to be? The minimum you would accept, assuming both of them are watching this trade and we want to see it go down, or watching this stream.
I also need a running back. I need a very good running back. I'm probably going to pivot off Jefferson and be like, give me Bryce and give me A.J. Brown. And they're going to be like, that's not even what I offered. And I'll be like, yeah, but that's what I need.
Fair.
That's what I need. I like that. There you go, Shane. What are you doing sitting back, buddy?
Chilling.
Just chilling? Yeah? Okay.
Drinking my BAM energy drink.
Bang.
Bang.
Nice. All right, let's okay, we already did Sloan, didn't we?
Yeah, we're still confused.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I see Bello John 1 of 3.
Real quick.
I only
Jarvis.
see 1.
Jarvis.
There are only three left. Sorry.
Oh, god damn it. All right, I'll go search for him. But Jarvis, if you're still in here, dude, DM me on the Twitters.
Okay, well, you go on the Bello John hunt, 857. Okay, we'll do the Bill Willicheks first. 12 team, Superflex, PPR, 1.5 tight end, start 10. QBs, we're looking at Shane's life coach, Kyler, Dak, Danny Dimes, Mac, Jimmy. Running backs, Bijan, Bryce, Ramondre Chubb. Wide receivers, Diggs, Amon-Ra, Garrett Wilson, Devontae Smith, Juju. Tight end, Andrews. Tried to upgrade from Kyler, but no one biting. Ideas? I like that squad a lot.
Yeah, dude, you got Bijan, Breece Hall, Ramondre Chubb. That's 4 top 15 running backs. Diggs, Amon-Ra, Wilson, Devontae Smith.
It's a great mix of vets and youth. It's a team that's can just recycle, you know.
Think about this, Clay. If you see this team in a league, are you going to turn around and trade this team? You're Jalen Hurts, or they're going to slaughter you, right? So I can probably see why he's not able to get a deal done, because if I'm looking at this team, I'm not allowing them to upgrade at quarterback unless it really dings his squad. But even if I take it like Garrett Wilson off of his team, it doesn't kill him to the point where, man, am I really letting him go from Kyler Murray to, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts? You know what I mean? Like I'm not helping them. So I hate to say this. This might be a team you just roll with Dak and Daniel Jones, and they win you the ship because your rest of your team is so stacked. I think you don't try to upgrade, and you just ride that QB room. Kyler will come back at some point, and you still have the league really, really crushed in all those other spots. Great team.
Yeah, great team, and no need to do anything now. It's May 16th, right?
Right.
So, yeah, good stuff. Okay.
John only put in 2.
Put in 2. Okay.
Yeah, unless he put it in much, much later, the third piece, but I'm just not seeing it.
He tricked Shane with the third parter like 8 minutes after.
Somebody did that on purpose one night. I remember he was like, he was fucking with Shane and had like 2 of 3, and then he was just on this trying to bird dog that 3 of 3, and it did not exist. All right, so Bruins Forever, thank you for the super chat. How do you value picks in a startup? Having trouble gauging fair value when trying to move up, trade back. Any advice for trading during a startup?
Clay, what are the golden rules, Clay? What are the 2 golden rules?
The golden rules are you always want to get the same amount of assets back on your side of the trade. So you don't want to give up 2 draft picks and only get 1 rookie draft pick in return. You also don't want to give away your 24 firsts. Instead, you'd rather acquire them by moving back and acquiring them. So, okay. Shane?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was searching. How do I value picks in a startup? I mean, I'm never going to trade a first to move up 1 round. After the 5th round, you could probably get any one of my picks for a future first. I don't know. Add that on to what you guys said. It's a good little start there. Well, I mean, seriously, like
yeah.
Don't do things like, hey, I moved up from the 3rd round to the 2nd round, and all I had to give up was a 24 first. All right, well, think about that 24 first, or excuse me, think about that 23 first of that rookie pick of like what you could have used it for in season, or what it was valued at, near the rookie draft.
I will say this too. Personally, I still do it when I'm doing startups. So I think Keep Trade Cut has one of these too, where it's you can do draft picks in the trade calculator. I am not a KTC guy. I do like DTC, Dynasty Trade Calculator. I like going into their startup mode and entering in the picks just to check myself. Be like, okay, so I'm really giving up my 2nd, 3rd, 4th to get an elite QB at say the 106, but then I'm getting like an 8th and a 9th. It's like, is that really like, is this smart? I like to cross reference.
Alexis actually asked, do you guys ever use trade analyzers to get an idea for trades? If so, which sites do you recommend?
That's my pick, and we are an affiliate, full disclosure, of Dynasty Trade Calculator. The link is in the description, but I've always...
We are?
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
What's the promo code?
It's a link.
Shane's like,
we don't have
Shane wants code. That. Shane wants some DTC.
No, it's sick. Honestly, my values tend to line up pretty damn spot on with DTC. I don't even look at Keep Trade Cut. DLF, theirs is fine as well, but I've always been a DTC truther.
And shout out to Izzy with DTC.
Yeah.
He's always been a grinder and keeps it relatively updated. So that's been going for like 5 or 6 years. Cool, you got to give him credit.
Yep. I look at anything that can help me. I look at trade calculators. I don't always look at trade calculators. Some trades are just easy in my brain, and I go, yeah, that's fine. Or I won that by a kabillion. I don't need to look that up in an analyzer unless I want to just go mock someone. And I'm like, haha, look what I did to this person. But DTC is good. DLFs is fine. I use that for a lot of the mailbag questions just to kind of compare trades that people ask about. And I'll say this, the DLF trade analyzer is usually not too far off. I don't know points wise, but it's usually not too far off from like my own opinion. Like if it has a trade close, I usually feel that it's a close trade.
Yeah. One thing I wish the trade calculators can do, and who knows, maybe we can find somebody to build it for us, but where you could have the amount of starters inserted. You can give more format.
They do that in the DLF one.
Have they started doing that? That just shows I haven't gone to that calculator.
Well, if you use their trade analyzer, it links to your leagues. So all that's accounted for.
Anyway, okay, let's go to, you found all three. Nicely done.
And his third one, I'm just going to unstart it right now. It's a start
9, by the way. Okay, cool. All right, so 10 team super flex start 9, 0.05 pp. Does that mean half PPR? No tight end premium? Are we going with that? Okay, 10 team super flex, half PPR, start 9, no tight end premium. Lamar, Watson, Dimes, Bijan, Gibbs, Bryce, Dobbins, Pierce, Olave, Addison, JSN, JMO, Cooper, and Kirk at wide receiver. No 24 or 25 capital. Only Njoku and Kmet as tight end. Would like to buy Andrews. What should I be willing to pay? Also, I passed on CJ at the 104, 105 for JSN and Gibbs in a 10 team. Mistake. QB value lower in a 10 team. No part 3 of 3.
So two things.
He's got a good
One,
QB room.
his QBs are fine. I think he's perfect at QB. He's got Danny Dimes, which he could downgrade in an emergency. But in a 10 team, I actually like having the 3 higher end quarterbacks because there's a lesser advantage of having, the 3. So there's probably other QB rooms that it can compete with your Lamar and Watson. He's got Njoku. I'm fine with Njoku if you can't get Mark Andrews or you can't get Darren Waller. Waller would be like the backup option because I have Danny Dimes. But other than that, like what did we talked about at the beginning of the show? Barring that he can't get Andrews and he can't probably get Kelsey, maybe Goddard or Hawkinson, but that's it. You're already set up. You already got David Njoku with Watson. You're just going to have to roll with that.
Yep.
You're free to go try to pay for Pitts, but I mean that's the same thing as Kelsey. Like if you can't, why even like? There's no other tight ends to go after except for those elite ones when you already have the stack with Njoku.
Yeah.
Well, and he has no capital, so I'm kind of sitting here going like, how can I get draft capital without affecting my lineup? Because I assume this is a start. He doesn't say how many starters, right? Start
9. Start 9.
Start 9. I mean, in a start 9, you do not need Bijan, Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs, J.K. Dobbins, and Dameon Pierce. That is an automatic liquidate.
Pierce,
one or two of
J.K.
those guys.
Dobbins, Gibbs. Oh, see ya. Bye. All 3 of them. Just roll with Breece and Bijan, and you'll still destroy people's souls.
Get rid of
JMO, Christian Kirk, like that. You have some excess here where the no capital should turn into having capital, and it doesn't impact whether you win or not because you're already set up really well. So get some capital so you can move some capital later for a bigger deal.
Yep. That is it, guys and gals in the audience. 394 people stuck with us still. They all hit the like, I'm sure. No, we appreciate everybody as always on Tuesdays. Do we have anything next Tuesday? We'll double check, but I'll tell you what, we always try to be here 8:30 on Tuesdays. So we'll either way, we'll see you one of the days next week. Guys, Scott, you want to say bye to our crew here?
Yeah, appreciate everyone coming out.
To our constituents.
Yeah, appreciate everyone coming out from last week's. Last week turned out to be a good show. Just was a really rocky start. But we're back. We're recovered. We're mostly post-rookie draft. I think I still have maybe 10 rookie drafts left to do. Kind of trying to figure out. Maybe we'll talk next week what to do if you have some of these rogue picks in rookie drafts that haven't been made yet. Because the values are different. Everyone kind of knows what they're going to be. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about that next week. But just glad to see, pretty steady 400 plus in here most of the night. Awesome. Appreciate everybody. Keep coming with the DMs. I try to get back to as many questions as I can. But I appreciate a lot of people always say, hey, I know your DMs are flooded. Like literally, I go back to Twitter.
It's crazy.
After 6 hours and it's 15 to 20 messages deep. So I try to get through to them. Keep bugging me if I miss it. No offense taken, but yeah, I just appreciate everybody and what we've helped grow here, Clay. But big kudos to Clay, who's a grinder.
Nah, man, we're a great team, and we've got a freaking tribe here. It's exciting stuff. This is our community. These are our people, man. We are one and the same. Shane, you want to say? Would you like to say goodnight, sir?
Well, everyone's logging off, but thanks for coming out. Appreciate everyone that watched the show. If you're watching this on Memorex, appreciate you too. Appreciate everybody watching. Thank you, guys, gals,
and
everyone,
gals, of course. Gals. All right, see you guys. See you next time, and be on the lookout for an awesome short little part 2 video free roster reviews for to hot chicks.